A typical day in the life of Abigail Adams might include hanging her laundry up to dry in the East Room of what we now call the White House, chastising some Virginians for all their talk of liberty while still keeping slaves, providing for the education of a random African-American boy who showed up at her front door asking her to teach him how to read, and then telling off anyone who dared criticize her for it. And finally, she might sit down to write a letter full of good advice to her husband, John Adams, second president of the United States, that would end up being treasured by future generations as a priceless historical document. Whew! I'm getting tired just saying all those things. And yes, she really did all of them. You won't be surprised to learn Abigail Adams was called Mrs. President by her contemporaries. Future generations have celebrated her as a vital contributor to the founding of the nation. Meet Abigail. Here's her story. I'm Charity Mainwaring. Welcome to Strong Stories, where we talk about the lives of influential women who disrupted the status quo and made history. Today's story is part of a series on fascinating women of the American Revolution. When you're finished with this story, be sure to check out my other episodes in the series. And if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss an episode. Abigail Smith was born in 1744 in colonial Massachusetts. Like nearly all girls of her day, she was not given a formal education. However, when her mother taught her to read, she pored over her minister father's books, educating herself. At 19, Abigail married John Adams, a young lawyer of whom her mother disapproved as reeking of the farm. But the two rode off on a single horse to said smelly farm. And while John practiced law in nearby Boston, Abigail raised and educated their 6 children. She also managed their farm and their finances, investing so well that the couple were able to retire comfortably in later life. Basically, John hit the jackpot when he married Abigail. In the summer of 1774, John went to Philadelphia as a delegate in the Continental Congress, which was a group of Americans from the 13 colonies who met before and during the Revolutionary War. Within a year, the colonies would be embroiled in outright war with Great Britain. John's long absences from home were hard on Abigail, but she believed in the cause he was fighting for and actively encouraged him in his work. In June 1775, Abigail was startled awake to the sound of cannon shots. She and her 7-year-old son, John Quincy, watched as the Battle of Bunker Hill broke out near Charlestown, Massachusetts. The violent confrontation resulted in the loss of over 100 American lives, including that of a close family friend. Abigail was so incensed that she went home and melted all of her precious pewter spoons and made musket balls for the rebel forces. She was ready to take out some redcoats. In 1783, the Treaty of Paris was signed, formalizing American independence and ending the Revolutionary War. Abigail took the long sea voyage to Europe to join John in Paris and London, where he was serving in a diplomatic post. She enjoyed Paris, but found it hard to make friends in London, with British polite society giving her the cold shoulder. Maybe they found out about the musket balls. John Adams was inaugurated as the second president of the United States in 1797, but Abigail was not able to be there for that historic moment because she was taking care of his dying mother. As First Lady, at a time when women were expected to confine themselves to domestic matters only, Abigail actively supported her husband's work. She even secretly planted favorable stories about him in the press. Sneaky lady. 2 causes near and dear to her heart were opposition to slavery and quality education for women. One of the most fascinating aspects of Abigail's and John's relationship over the years is their intimate correspondence. His career took him from the revolutionary debates of Independence Hall to the throne rooms of Europe and ultimately to the presidency. But all the while, they exchanged over 1,000 letters, at times gushing with affection for each other. He sometimes addressed her as Miss Adorable, and they'd usually refer to each other as my dearest friend or much loved friend. John sought her advice and opinion on seemingly everything, and she poured her whole being into their partnership. Abigail famously urged her husband to remember the ladies when writing the nation's new laws, as women of her time were completely under the control of their husbands. She wrote, "I desire you would remember the ladies and be more generous and favorable to them than your ancestors. Do not put such unlimited power into the hands of the husbands. Remember, all men would be tyrants if they could. If particular care and attention is not paid to the ladies, we are determined to foment a rebellion and will not hold ourselves bound by any laws in which we have no voice or representation." And she frequently encouraged him to keep up his faith, in one letter stating, "The God of Israel is he that giveth strength and power unto his people. Trust in him at all times." When John Adams lost his re-election battle to Thomas Jefferson, the Adams retired to a quiet life in Massachusetts. Abigail wouldn't live to see her oldest son, John Quincy, win the presidency, but she fully expected great things from him and did all she could to aid him. She died in 1818. Her last words were whispered to her husband. "Do not grieve, my friend, my dearest friend. I am ready to go. And John, it will not be long." Thanks for joining today. If you learned something you didn't know, then please hit the like button and share this video with your friends. Say hello in the comments. I always respond to every comment, and I would love to hear what you think of Abigail's story. And be sure to check out my other videos on fascinating women who shaped history. You can do hard things. Be brave, be strong.